Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear viewers. I am Professor Dr. Muhammad Usman, and in this video we will learn about the regulation or control of respiration. Now basically the regulation of respiration is done by two type of impulses, that is efferent or motor impulses which pass from the respiratory center, okay, which pass from the respiratory center to respiratory muscles. And secondly, it is done by efferent or sensory impulses which pass from peripheral receptors to the respiratory center. In this video, we are going to talk only about the efferent impulses or motor impulses which originate from the respiratory center and they go to the respiratory muscles. While in the next video, the link of which you can check in the description of this video, inshallah ta'ala. So in the next video, we are going to talk about the efferent or sensory impulses. So efferent impulses are the motor impulses which pass from the respiratory center. Now basically the respiratory center is present in our brainstem, that is in the medulla oblongata and pons, and it has three important components. First one is the pre-Botzinger complex. The second one is the medullary respiratory center, which further consists of DRG and VRG. And the third component of the respiratory center is pontine respiratory center, which again consists of apneustic and pneumotaxic centers. So as you can see in this figure, this is our brainstem, this is medulla oblongata, this is pons, and here our respiratory center, which is controlling our respiration, it is located. So the first component of the respiratory center is pre-Botzinger complex, which is present at the upper end of the medulla, as you can see here. Then the second component is the medullary respiratory center, which as the name indicates, it is present in the medulla oblongata, and it consists of this dorsally located dorsal respiratory group of neurons and this ventrally located ventral respiratory group of neurons. Then the third component is pontine respiratory center, which is present in the pons, and it has this apneustic center and this pneumotaxic center. So together all of these they are called as respiratory center. So let us discuss their functions one by one. First of all, this pre-Botzinger complex, which is located at the upper end of the medulla, as you can see here. Now it generates the basic rhythm of the respiration. As you can see here, it generates the basic rhythm of the respiration. It has a pacemaker activity. It undergoes self-induced action potentials which are similar to those which originate from the SA node of the heart. Then impulses from this pre-Botzinger complex, they pass to this DRG or dorsal respiratory group of neurons and thus generate the basic rhythm of respiration. So this was about the first component of the respiratory center, that is pre-Botzinger complex. Now the next component is medullary respiratory center, and among the medullary we will first discuss about the dorsal respiratory group of neurons. So it is located on the dorsal side of the medulla. It is mainly present in the nucleus of tractus solitarius and adjacent reticular formation of the medulla, as you can see in this figure. It receives impulses from 9th and 10th nerve, that is from the glossopharyngeal nerve and vagus nerve. Okay. So as you can see, this is another view of the same respiratory center. This is medulla, this is pons, and we are confined to the medulla. So here this is dorsal respiratory group of neurons and this is ventral respiratory group of neurons. And as you can see, the dorsal respiratory group or DRG, it is receiving impulses from 9th and 10th nerve. So from where it receives impulses? So it receives impulses via this 9th and 10th nerve from peripheral chemoreceptors, then the receptors which are present in the lungs, and then the baroreceptors. So from these receptors it receives information and then it decides how to control the respiration. When the neurons of DRG or dorsal respiratory group, they fire, inspiration takes place, okay, and when they stop firing, expiration takes place. So very simple functioning. discharge of the neurons of DRG, it begins weakly, okay, it begins weakly and increases steadily in a ramp like manner, okay, in a ramp like manner. Here also you can see, here also you can see. So, discharge of neurons, it begins weakly and increases steadily in a ramp like manner for about 2 seconds. Then it stops abruptly, as you can see here, you can see here, you can see here, the discharge stops abruptly for about 3 seconds, and in this time period diaphragm is inhibited and thus inspiration comes to an end and expiration starts. So, this is all inspiration and then this is expiration. So, this is all inspiration and this is all expiration. Again this is inspiration and this is expiration. So, the total respiratory cycle in this way consists of 5 seconds, 2 seconds for inspiration and 3 seconds for expiration. Now, the advantage of this ramp is that it causes a steady increase in the volume of the lungs during inspiration. So, the next group in the medullary respiratory center is this ventral respiratory group of neurons, which is located on the ventral side. Now, this has got a role in both the inspiration and expiration, and it consists of nucleus ambiguous and nucleus retroambiguous. Now, its function differs from the DRG in that it remains inactive during normal quiet breathing. Okay. So, this center, ventral respiratory group of neurons, it remains inactive during normal quiet breathing and acts only when we require increased ventilation, for example during exercise, to provide powerful signals to the expiratory muscles. Okay. So, in conditions of increased ventilation or forceful breathing, it sends powerful signals to the expiratory muscles, for example to the abdominal muscles. So, this is another view of the respiratory center, as you can see, and this is medullary respiratory center and this is pontine respiratory center, and in the medullary this is dorsal DRG and this is VRG or ventral respiratory group of neurons. Please keep in mind that in this figure stimulation is shown by red color and inhibition is shown by green color. So, as you can see, the VRG or ventral respiratory group of neurons present in the medulla oblongata, it is causing stimulation of the expiratory muscles, for example internal intercostal muscles, okay, which are present among the ribs, and it is causing their stimulation, and it is causing also stimulation of the accessory respiratory muscles. Then the next is the pontine centers. Okay, the third component of the respiratory center is pontine centers, which consist of apneustic center and this pneumotaxic center. Now, first of all we will talk about the this pneumotaxic center. Okay, pneumotaxic center, this one, okay, this one which is located at the upper end of the pontine area. Now, pontine this pneumotaxic center is located dorsally in the nucleus parabrachialis of the upper pons, and how it functions, basically it sends inhibitory signals. As you can see here, inhibition is shown by this green color in this figure. So, this pneumotaxic center, as the name indicates, it sends inhibitory signals to the inspiratory area or this DRG. Okay, this is DRG, and this pneumotaxic center is sending inhibitory signals to this DRG. In this way, it limits the duration of inspiration. Okay, it limits the duration of inspiration. So, we can say that the primary effect of this pneumotaxic center is to control the switch off point of the inspiratory ramp. Okay, its primary effect is to control the switch off point of the inspiratory ramp. So, here is the inspiratory ramp which we just saw in the previous slide, and here the inspiration comes to end. How? Because here the pneumotaxic center, it has caused inhibition of the neurons of the DRG, and in this way it has stopped the inspiration. So, it controls the switch off point of the inspiratory ramp. This is inspiratory ramp and its switch off point is controlled by the pneumotaxic center, which serves to inhibit the DRG. Okay. Again you can say here this was the inspiratory ramp and it was inhibited here by the pneumotaxic center. So, we come back to the same figure here. So, this was about the functioning of the pneumotaxic center. Now, increased activity of this pneumotaxic center, it increases the respiratory rate up to about 30 to 40 breaths per minute, and decreased activity of the same pneumotaxic center can decrease the rate of respiration up to about 3 to 5 breaths per minute. Now, the second component of this pontine respiratory group is apneustic center. Okay, we just said that the pontine center consists of pneumotaxic center and apneustic center. So, the second component of this pontine respiratory center is apneustic center. It is located in the lower part of the pons, and how it functions, very interesting. It inhibits this apneustic center. Okay, this apneustic center, as you can see, it inhibits the inhibitory effect of pneumotaxic center on the DRG. Okay, this apneustic center, I repeat, it inhibits the inhibitory effect of the pneumotaxic center on the DRG. So, we can say it stimulates the DRG. Inhibition of inhibition is stimulation. So, basically this pneumotaxic center, it serves to stimulate the DRG, as is shown in this figure. The red color is showing stimulation. So, we can say that apneustic center, in a nutshell, it serves to stimulate the DRG or dorsal respiratory group of neurons. It prolongs inspiration. Okay, it prolongs inspiration and shortens expiration. Such a respiration is called apneusis. We can define apneusis like it is a breathing pattern with prolonged inspiratory gasps followed by brief periods of expiration. Now, this type of breathing may occur when our oxygen requirements are increased, for example, during exercise. So, this was all about the respiratory center. This was part 1 of the regulation or control of the respiration. For other parts of this series, that is regulation of respiration, please check the link in the description of this video. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to this channel. Stay blessed and Allah Hafiz.